forums like this that really plant the seed. And that's really what we need to do, is we need to, I think you said, we need to be seed planters. And that's so true, because we get so lost in the vastness of things that are going on that, it's forums like this that we can't afford to take the information from here and do nothing with it. We have to say, okay, you know what? I may not have a large voice. I may not be able to impact hundreds or thousands of people, but if I can do one, and then if someone else can do one, and someone else can do one. And that's the diversity of what we're talking about, because diversity comes in so many different forms, but it's so critical in this day and age now that we understand what role we do have to play. And with the world really being smaller, and we are a global economy, we're a global network, we have so many resources and so many ways in which we can say, you know what, let's take it forward and let's go forward. So this is, to echo Lady T and Princess, it is a great opportunity today for us to take the messages and to say, I will be that voice. I'll at least take my voice and see what I can do with it. That's extremely important. While Jonathan's getting set up,
yes.
I'll go ahead and just start a little bit here. I'm Tony Richards. A little bit about me. I'm a pastor. I have an unusual type of ministry in that my ministry is overseas. I have churches in 5 other countries that I work with. I work a lot with pastors and ministry leaders on leadership. I'm a motivational speaker also. I focus on leadership and attitude. I have a doctorate degree in organizational leadership, a master's degree in management. I work with a number of organizations, both nonprofit and for-profit, in helping them get started. I work with entrepreneurs in getting businesses started. It's important to me. My former mentor was the late Zig Ziglar. I met Zig in '95, and until he died in 2012. He really coached me and helped me. And his philosophy was the way to succeed is to help enough other people get to where they want to be. And I really live that. You know, if I can help you to better yourself in some way, thank you. Yeah, and even if it's a little bit different than what I'm used to, or that's okay, because it's your story, it's your life, it's your opportunity. So so I look at everything in kind of in a view and a window of diversity. And we have a daughter who has autism, so that really helps us to kind of look at diversity in a lot of different ways, and understanding that no matter where we are, we all have a disability of some type. We all do. But what we do with it, we can turn that, we can be determined to turn that into a real opportunity. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be here today as well.
Absolutely. Wow. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. It is an absolute true honor and a privilege to be here today. To be able to share a message of depth, a message that impacts each one of us and is impacting us even as I speak. This message is one with extreme significance and impact on humanity and on generations to come. I'm here because I believe that the subject is not only of the utmost importance, but it is one of the most important subjects of our time. I'm convinced it is probably the most important issue in the history of the human race. And before I complete my presentation this afternoon, I hope to have provided you enough information to support that opinion. And like everything, do your own research. Find out for yourself. But I guarantee you, everything that I'm saying can be backed up with studies, with facts, with evidence. Today, we have gathered to discuss the coming implementation of 5G, the health implications of 5G, but more importantly, what we as a community can do to raise awareness, to expand our understanding, and to empower everyone who decides to take action to protect themselves, to protect our families, and protect our communities from the coming epidemic and the current epidemic of heart disease, obesity, cancer, neurological disorders that have plagued humanity for the past 100 years. So, so cell phone radiation. Let's actually just take a step back. Are cell phones dangerous? Well, I think it's important that everyone understand cell phone radiation, the phone you have in your hand or in your pocket, increases the risk of cancer. How do I know? Well, a huge amount of peer-reviewed studies have been very, very clear. A study recently out of the University of Indiana showed that talking on your cell phone for more than 1 hour a day increased your risk of cancer by 500%. Now, these dangerous biological effects of EMF have been documented by thousands of studies since 1932, indicating that we may be facing a global health catastrophe on orders of magnitude worse than tobacco cigarettes. The new technology is designed to deliver concentrated and focused electromagnetic radiation in excess of 100 times the current levels of what we see today. There is currently, right now, as we speak, an international appeal signed by 237 scientists across the world from 41 nations, urging the UN to exert strong leadership and develop more protective electromagnetic frequency guidelines, encouraging precautionary measures that educate the public about the considerable health risk, particularly the risk of children and fetal development. But when you look even closer, since 1932, the studies have shown that the mitochondrial DNA, which comes from our mother, goes through unchanged. But the studies show that your cell phone in your pocket can impact that mitochondrial DNA. So what happens? Well, it actually doesn't happen to your children. But when your child is born, the first thing that happens, if you happen to have a girl, the first thing is that her ovaries are actually impacted. So if today you start using and talking on the phone and having your phone in your lap, or your laptop in your lap, as you are preparing to have a child, it's not going to be your daughter that is impacted. It's going to be your grandchildren. And the thing about this is that this type of damage, DNA damage, is irreparable. So you can trace, so this is where everybody understands, and I'm going to go into some detail about how these things work, because I want everybody to really stay with me in terms of some of the words that I'm using and how that works. And if you have any questions, please ask me, and online ask me as well. But as you can look closer at mitochondrial DNA, you can trace that back to an unchanged single mother, to their mother, to their mother, to their mother, right back to the very beginning of the human race in Africa. It says it has been unchanged in that mitochondrial DNA, and that has been constrained and has been impacted and will continue to be impacted for the coming future generations of every single child. Now, I've been reviewing the studies showing the impacts of wireless radiation on our health, and now there's thousands of studies showing the adverse impacts to what? Hold on. Okay. For your health, and the studies have shown that the impacts of wireless radiation are enormous. And I could go down the list. Cancer, oxidative damage, DNA failure, things like memory, dizziness, anxiety, brain fog, headaches, cognitive problems, exhaustion. We have evidence of DNA damage. Cardiomyopathy is a precursor of congestive heart disease, short and long-term memory loss, decreased attention spans, lower reaction times, involuntary contractions of the muscles. I mean, breast cancers are slowly occurring in women who have no DNA predisposition. Disrupted immune function, a change in stress proteins, and reproductive and fertility impacts, and the studies go on and on and on. They show beyond a shadow of a doubt that radiation is damaging our descendants. And we know the damage it is doing to our sperm. If you take a look at this, if you look at your cell phone and pull it out of your pocket and actually put it next to sperm, they actually become immobile. And then when you remove the phone, the sperm actually recuperate within 3 to 4 months. It said, so what would not require, so what would happen is that as I said, the sperm would recover, but the DNA damage is irreparable. And this is something, it's interesting. Just recently, there have been an influx of strange cancers on people's face, on people's hands, cell phone radiation has a very localized impact on the areas that you keep it. And it's very interesting. I mean, even if you look and you see, the governor, the ex-governor of Indiana was diagnosed with what's called glioblastoma. It's a brain tumor. Ted Kennedy and John McCain both had glioblastoma. And if you look at McCain's scar, you see that this is a cell phone brain tumor. LeBron James, one of our top sports people, he had a salivary gland tumor. This is another cell phone tumor, but you didn't hear about this because immediately after it was discovered, he was paid by Samsung to become their spokesperson. So we're seeing an increase of brain tumors, we're seeing an increase of Alzheimer's disease, increase in neurodegenerative disease, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, Parkinson's. All of these are diseases of the system that are known to be associated with low levels of energy exposure. We're talking about 24/7 around the clock exposure. And this is your whole body, you can't get away from it. And it seems that from studies that maybe your immune system can cope from time to time. But with extended exposure, it will deteriorate. And that's what you've been experiencing. That's the reason that you have that headache that won't go away. That's the reason that you have that rash that has been showing up and you can't figure it out. And you're talking to 30, 40 doctors and they don't know what it is and what's causing it. That's the reason why there are these autoimmune diseases that are occurring and reoccurring and reoccurring. One of the things that we were going to talk about today was about diversity. And about, because I want everyone to understand that sickness is local. It is a result of the environment that we are in. So when someone gets sick, and I don't know, we're talking about this, and all of this, by the way, is in a book that I just released. I'm going to be taking pre-orders for it soon. But all of these things are in detail in my coming book called The Power to Heal. So I want everybody to know that they don't have to remember everything I'm saying now. All of this is documented and in detail and written down. But I want people to know that this is damaging ourselves at a deeper level on a daily basis. But then the question is, then what? What do we do? What do we do? Well, I want people to know that this isn't just, these are peer-reviewed papers. These aren't just hypochondriacs. These are real problems. People who are having real issues with this. When you look at PubMed, when you look at the peer-reviewed literature, you see these effects from cell phone radiation are in all life forms: plants, animals, insects, microbes. So 5G is not a conversation about whether or not these biological effects exist. They clearly exist scientifically. The evidence is so strong that the standards used by the FCC to manage health effects are wrong. And I'll explain why that is. In 1996, the Telecommunications Act was passed. It was passed by, who else? With huge financial funding from the FCC. And what it said, and this is, I'm going to paraphrase, that the local and state governments are not allowed to protest due to health concerns, the location of cell phone towers. Because we're actually, right now, I haven't even begun to talk about 5G. I'm only talking about cell phone radiation now. I will get into 5G. I want people to understand 5G is a totally different animal. It is a totally different technology. It is something, and I will explain this, and I will go through the process of what the 1G was, what 2G was, what 3G was, what 4G was, and I'll get there. I just want everybody to understand that haven't even begun to discuss 5G. So we need to start measuring how much radiation people are being exposed to. And yes, ionizing or not, it is still radiation. Before we roll out 5G, there are 4 kinds of EMF fields that are harmful to humans. Radio frequency, radiation, magnetic fields, dirty electricity, and electric fields. Our exposure on any given person, and all humans, are affected by EMF. But what is our exposure in a day? It's not just one cell phone. It's cell phones. It's multiple wireless networks. It's smart meters. It's cell towers. It's everything added up consistently. I saw my mother. She had the thing in her ear. I hate to say it, guys. Maybe it's not a phone next to your ear, but it is a wireless transmission signal that is directly pointed at your brain. I hate it is, and the consequences are there. But the thing is that the consequences aren't immediate. You don't see it right away. You may not see it for 5 years. You may not see it for 10 years. You may not know what is actually causing the troubles and health issues that you're having. And you may never know. And that's one of the more challenging aspects of this, is that it is difficult to trace back to the source. Because who knows what that person did? Who knows what that person was exposed to? And when you combine EMF radiation in top of the pollutants in our environment, the pollutants in our food, the pollutants in the drinks, and then you got heavy metals. Gosh, guys, heavy metals. One of the protocols that I offer is a extreme heavy metal detox, because metals are essentially receivers that get activated by radio frequency. I mean, that's just what happens. And the truth is that 5G is a game changer in the health of our planet. Right now, there are 5 billion mobile devices across the globe. When 5G rolls out, and let me explain what's going to happen. Within the next 18 months, there will be more cell towers built than have been built in the past 30 years combined. Listen to what I'm saying. Let me explain how small, because people don't know, to hear like a cell phone tower, to hear 5G, what's the difference? Okay, let me explain. Well, regular cell phone towers, as long as they can be 500 meters away and still be functional. So you see them, they're like in the tree, they're like far away, as long as they're like not in my backyard, it's kind of okay. But because 5G requires a much higher energy level and a much higher frequency, they only operate on short distances. So which means they need to be placed far closer to where you live, where you sleep, and where you actually live and engage in your daily life. So imagine having, and so this is what it's going to end up looking like. You're going to have a cell tower every 3 houses out front in your light post. Now, it exerting massive energy level, 100 times faster, 100 times greater, 100 times more, and they're pulsed. And see, the thing is that the physics hasn't been. I'm passionate about this issue because I think it's important for people to understand where I came from, what my story is. I was a person who was completely devoted to health, but when I actually started to dig in deep, I became an expert in bioenergetics, because in order to help people lose weight, in order to help people transform, you have to know what the physics is of the energy they're consuming. So everything that we do is essentially based upon energy. Okay, it's based upon the energy that we get, the electrons that we get from food, and the energy that we get that ultimately comes from the sun. Now, and this is science, that we are also electrical beings. We have polarities. We are impacted by electromagnetic frequency. This is something that is impacting us on a global scale. I have so much more I want to share, but I really understand that that there's almost too much. There's almost, I came, because I didn't just want to talk about the bad things. I came with a set of protocols, a set of things to do, a set of actions to take, so people can have the health and still live the life that they want, and still be able to reduce and mitigate the damage. Now, there are a set of things that they can do. I have all of that. Now, if you want to find out more, please reach out to me on Inner Power Unleashed at Facebook or my website, and then I will send you a write-up of what exactly you need to do. I had this free because I want everyone to have access to it. I want everyone to be healthy with me, because the more that we know about what's happening in our environment, the greater power over our environment we have. And the more knowledge that we have, the more empowered we can become. So I'm just going to pause here just for a second and extend and share this time with my esteemed colleague.
Thank you. One of the things that, as you were talking, Jonathan, that I was thinking about was the radio waves, the microwaves. Just think, if we could see what's bombarding us right now, and if we could understand what is happening to our bodies right now, what is happening, as Jonathan said, the unfortunate thing is it's not really about you or your children, but it's your grandchildren.
Yes.
It's getting down into your core, into your DNA, and it has that ability to change molecular structure, and it has that ability to really impact you. And a lot of people laugh at this, and a lot of people say, that's a lot of that just can't be. Yes, it is. It's true. It's happening. We're seeing that in a lot of different ways. We're understanding that. I was talking with Bianca earlier, and she was saying, look at autism. How years ago autism was what, 1 in 1,000,
No.
1 in 1,500.
No, 1 in 150,000.
1 in 150,000. And today in North Dakota, it's 1 in 51. And what's changing this? What is happening? What are we doing? So we have to understand the world around us. I always say this when in one of the talks that I give. We're not as good as we think we are, and we think that we have the answers. We think that we know it all. But take a look at what has happened. Take a look from a diversity standpoint of how we have impacted and how we've changed. And that brings a question to mind that I have for you, Jonathan. I work with a lot of companies where people are coming in from other countries,
Mm-hmm.
and they're seeing, when they're here, they're seeing a difference in their behavior. They're seeing things. They're getting sick more. They're having trouble understanding that. And what are some of the things that could be causing this?
Okay. Well, let me say, I think that after I just listed off all of the damaging impacts of cell phone radiation, okay, what I'm talking about right now in terms of 5G, when that is implemented and upgraded from 4G, we actually don't know what the health impacts would be because we haven't done the test. We actually don't know. It's with 5G, it's 100 times faster and 100 times stronger. Oops. So it's 100 times faster, 100 times stronger, and it's more energy dense. And so, but here's the thing. It's actually going to be amazing. We're going to feel like we're living in the Jetsons for a period of time, because imagine having everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. There's actually a rollout of what it's supposed to be. Everything from your suit to your cup to your computer to the video camera that's filming us, to everything being connected. So all of a sudden, you're gonna have not just one transmitter, not just two, not just three, not just your cell phone and mine, but everything in the room bombarding us 24/7. Now, as amazing as that will be, because it really will be incredible, we're gonna feel like the Internet of Things is actually gonna know more about us than we know about ourselves. And so there is gonna be enormous economic stimulus because of this. But there's also going to be enormous health impacts because of this. And so it is going to affect the employees. It is going to affect them. And the truth is that there are, most people don't know actually that it's impacting them. Most people don't know that their little mood shift or their anger outburst or whatever has may be linked back to the additive impacts of EMF. Now, so what's going to happen is that when you have, and this is the way it's going to be. You're going to have right now. I don't know if you know much about smart meters. Actually, I did want to talk about this. Smart meters are essentially they measure our electricity of our usage of our homes, but they're actually outside in the yard or somewhere, or they're not close to home immediately. But if you actually go next to them, you actually may feel a little ill. They actually do. They've been shown that if you stand less than a foot away from these things, they cause all types of cellular breakdown and cellular degradation. This has been shown under a microscope time and time and time again. They put people in rooms. I mean, it's gosh, I wish I had a PowerPoint because I wanted to show actually what is happening now. So, and the reason why I bring that up is because I have a smart meter out from my home. And I have had trouble sleeping, and I just recently moved into a new place, and I've been trying to figure out exactly, what's going on, and I didn't quite understand it, and it's something that that can be measured, because, and this is because I want to talk about what you can do to mitigate these things. There are actions you can take. One of the things that I have I have a few tools that I use, and this is something that you can. If you go to innerpowerunleashed.com, you can sign up, and I will send you a list of tools and tactics and steps to take to EMF-proof yourself and your life. And so, but one of those tools is an app called, and I love it, it's called the Architecture of Radio. And it's in 3D, it actually allows you to see a 3D depiction of the EMF that is actually around you. You were just talking about what does that look like. And the fact is that just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it exists. It's just like the damage from tobacco cigarettes. People, they're going to get up and say, oh, there's no conclusive evidence, and there's nothing directly linking our all this cancer stuff and our product. Well, there's no direct evidence, but there is ample amount of indirect evidence. So there's a trade-off. And so I ask people, when you're thinking about this, we're going to have an amazing future, but at what cost? What is the cost? What is the trade-off? And what are you willing to pay? And what are you willing to do to keep the health that you have? Because the thing is that unless you take action, then your health will degrade from this overload of exposure that is going to come. So I have lots of stuff. I have lots, just little things in terms of detoxing yourself is critical. I can go on and on and on and on and on. Make sure that if you want more information, reach out to me, and you can reach out to me on Facebook, or you can reach out to me on the website, and I will send you everything you need and set you up for success.
Questions?
So, excuse me, I went to South America, Bolivia, about 2 years ago, and I was telling someone that when I came back, I didn't really want to come back to the U.S. because I just enjoyed being down there so much. And when I got back, I felt like there was just this haze all over the place.
You felt it?
I was like, why does everything seem so foggy? I was like, is it because we're back in the U.S. or,
yes.
and everybody kept saying, oh, you're crazy. How do you feel like you don't want to come back to the U.S.? I'm like, I just didn't feel like that. When I got back, everything seemed really confusing. Like, why is everyone acting this way? And perhaps it could have just been my experience of being in a new country. but I seriously felt the difference. Like when people talk about eating organic, like I ate from the ground, we cooked the food, we knew exactly where it came from. It was a private farm that the people we stayed with owned. So I drank milk from a real free-range cow on someone's like little plot in the backyard. And you kind of really realize like the environment. I guess the electromagnetic energy, it affects everything, but I guess I was just kind of testifying to what you said, people coming over here feeling like, why do I feel different? Why is my blood pressure going up? Am I gaining so much weight? And yes.
I had a similar experience going to India, and the family we stayed with, the host family, the pastor, they were farmers, and it was all organic. And my oldest daughter, who just is absolutely, will tell me all the time, Dad, just stay with organic, don't touch anything else. She loved it over there, and she came back, and she's had stomach issues, and she has been to doctor after doctor. She's been to Johns Hopkins. Your dad actually helped us get her into Johns Hopkins to see the doctors there. She's been to Children's in Pittsburgh, Children's in Chicago. She's been all over, and she's been chronically ill. We were there for 10 days, and about the 7th day there, I said, Lauren, I haven't heard you complain about your stomach once. We got back within 24 hours. She was right back where she was.
Wow.
So and I'm not saying it's because it was India, but I am saying that there is something that we have to be very much aware of that's happening around us, that we're ingesting, and we're not only putting into our bodies, we're putting the cell phone up to our ear, and all of that is bombarding us. Jonathan also said, he mentioned, what was that program that I saw with the word radio waves?
Oh, the architecture of radio.
Yes, I saw that the other day, and it was absolutely incredible over some of our major cities. I mean, we are just being bombarded in everywhere we turn. And if we, again, it's like what was said earlier, if we don't get this word out, and if we don't look at it and understand it, it's not only us we're killing our children and our grandchildren, and it's scary.
So let me give everyone some things that they can take home, that they can do to mitigate their risk.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, I have a question. Does it affect the ground where you plant food and the food that we eat?
Yes. Well, it's interesting because right when we moved into our new home, we saw that there was a spot that was on the grass that was a little less abundant and kind of dead, and we couldn't figure out why. And I'm thinking, like there's always clues about what's going on in your environment if you look closely enough. And so I didn't make the link until recently that this is part of a smart meter, which was actually right next to it. And now it kind of makes sense, which is also kind of outside of my bedroom, which is, so I'm thinking about ways to actually mitigate that. And there are actually things you can do. But one of the things, and I actually have a list of things that you can do is stay wired as much as you possibly can. It's something very simple. You get your headphones. Instead of actually having, I know you guys, you love the wireless earpieces. The truth is that there is a wireless frequency transmitted to your head. And these things, and listen, this is like, it's not like if you do it, you're gonna die. But it's like eating a poison plant. You know it's poison. You know if you eat a little bit of it, your stomach's gonna hurt. You know if you eat a little bit more of it, you're gonna feel really, really ill. You know if you eat that plant every day, your health is gonna deteriorate. And you know if you eat it for over a certain amount of time, you're gonna die. So it's how much of this plant do you want to eat? And so that's really what it is. And it's hard for us, to determine, what is the cumulative impacts. But there are certain things. Like for example, did you know that when your phone, they did studies on on the impact of your cell phone. But you also know that your cell phone is not supposed to touch your skin. It's actually not supposed to be more than 10 millimeters closer to 10 millimeters from your skin, from your hand, from your head, from your body. So you are not supposed, and I remember this, I used to be on the phone and I used to set my cell phone on my chest while I was on speakerphone. And then I would start feeling like heart issues, and I would never, and I would take it off. Like, oh, that's weird. Well, come to find out, if you read the fine print, it's actually included with every cell phone that people purchase. What just happened here? Yeah. It's actually it's included in every cell phone package. It tells you exactly. Do not. And here's the interesting thing is that insurance companies will not insure the cell phone carriers because they know right now the cell phone carriers are insulated from going after them for health associated problems, and it actually has to do with the way they put together some of the laws. But the fact is that the insurance company knows well what the risks are. Yes.
So what you're saying is that if I developed a brain tumor, I could not.
Nope.
I could not sue you.
No. Absolutely. And that's the crazy thing. There's a website.
There's at least circumstantial evidence, if not direct evidence.
Enormous circumstantial evidence. And here's the thing: if you lose, you get sued. It's enormous. Because one of the things that, for example, say they put up a bunch of 5G towers at the light poles out front, right? The local governments actually don't have the power to deny them based upon health. We can deny it based upon looks or other things, but not on health. Because if we actually deny on health, we have to have evidence. And if we have evidence and we don't win that case, they sue the local government. So they're essentially what is it, the chicken garden hen house?
Yeah.
It's
The fox.
well, yeah, the fox dog, yeah. Yes, yeah. I mean, and that's essentially what's happening. And so so doing little things.
Now, what agency oversees this?
The FCC.
FCC or FCC? What about FDA?
Okay. Well, no, it's actually the Environmental Protection, the EPA, you would think,
EPA.
actually. They have given authority over to the FCC. They actually say, well, that's, I can't remember what this, Telecommunications Act of 1999, and so you have to go back to it, and when you go back to it, it's like a circle. It goes right back to them. And it's like, well who do you talk to? And so the thing is that I don't actually know how we get that part changed. And the truth is, I don't think we can. 5G is coming. The Internet of Things is coming. Like, this is the way that, yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
No. But this is what is going to happen within the next 18 months. And by 2025, 75% of all manufactured things will be connected. And by 2029, 99% of the planet will be connected. That means your shirt, your hair bob, everything, the fabric, the things that they have, that this is in less than 10 years. Self-driving cars, there's no way they would work without 5G. And so you have these things, and so you have these things that are very incredibly beneficial. And then you have these things that are incredibly damaging.
So what is your view? How do you judge for
Well, that's why you got to buy a book. No, I'll share. Yes.
I just had a question about, so Dr. Sebi said cured cancer, cured diabetes, cured lots of different things just through eating. So I'm asking you, can we cure the same illnesses that might come along with this? And I have one more thing to ask you, but I'll let you.
Sure.
So also, I just wanted to touch on the frequency. So, kids these days listening to mumble rap. And they, but in all seriousness, we're talking about the radio frequency coming from cell phone towers. Is there other frequencies that they're using out there that are influencing us that you could touch on that we might not know about coming from other things in our environment?
Yes, absolutely, China. Absolutely. Well, first, let me answer the last question in talking about, and then actually I may have to ask you again what the first question was. But the last question, the thing about it is that when you start creating, when you start warping the EMF fields, and that's what they're doing. They're actually moving they're called millimeter. A lot of people call them. They're saying. Have you ever seen the non-lethal weapons that they use to get crowds to move.
Yes.
And they're using them, the different militaries across the globe are using them now. It's this actually same frequency. It's actually the same, it's actually that, but it's how you use the technology. You can use, and this is very important because this is why, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Trump has said he does not want the Huawei, to bring their 5G phones into America, right? It seems like, and they say, well, it's a security risk. Well, the thing about it is that it's actually more than a security risk. 5G phones, it depends on, there's a lot more to it, let me just say that. And we'll say that for another conversation. But, so yes, the frequencies have not been tested, but the physics changes. And you have a lot of doctors, who don't really understand biophysics. You know, and one of the things that, you know, I've been a lover of quantum physics since I was a kid, and so as I grew up, I became a quantum biologist and understanding, you know, how bioenergetics works. And most people don't understand, most doctors don't really quite get it. And all these things can be backed up and determined if you look it up yourself on PubMed, which I absolutely love. I think everybody should go to it and do a search for something. And just find something that you didn't know before, and you can do that. It's free, and I love it. So that's, but they haven't tested for all the frequencies, and the technologies are even more extra. Because what happens is when you have two, this is to give you an idea, when two waves intersect, they amplify each other. Okay, but then what happens is if you actually have them from different angles, they actually warp, you know, the way that wave is actually expressed. And so you have a lot, it changes the physics of what's actually happening, and we don't know what that does to the cell. We actually don't know. And it's the biggest science experiment in human history.
But we know it's not.
And we're right in the middle of it.
We don't know what happens, but we know it's not good.
You know, here's like, let's, for example, you guys know that you get 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, for example. Okay, use for 2.4. It's a little lower frequency. It works, and it doesn't.
Outdated.
Well, here's the thing. Everything, you got your Bluetooth right now. We got, you know, like 5 different devices up here, and they're all broadcasting. They're all, whether it's on or not, it's continuing to pulse and check for signals around here. When your phone is in an area of bad signal, it actually amps up its actually electromagnetic pulses. So because it's like searching for a signal. So that is actually the worst time to actually have it next to your ear, or have it next to your reproductive organs. You know, this is actually something very interesting. If you look at the top 4 cancers of kids under the age of 10, it's colorectal cancer, testicle cancer, rectal cancer, and thyroid cancer. It's all the cancers that of areas where they keep your cell phones. I mean, that's just with kids, and this is before we even get to 5G. 5G is going to be a game changer.
It's already started.
It's already.
Yeah, we just finished a roadshow basically last week, talking about industry and innovation 4.0, which is the next step in the industrial revolution, if you would, and talking about cybersecurity, but talking about the Internet of Things, and looking at, we had several experts that went with us, and talking about what we will be doing in just a short period, 2-3 years. The way we're living today is going to change drastically. One half of the technology that we'll be using within the next 3 to 4 years hasn't even been invented yet.
Hasn't been created.
We don't even, it's out there, we haven't invented it, and we'll be using it. They know that. And so things are changing. And so the question is, what are we building? How are we preparing? Because there's so much demand on manufacturers right now to get this stuff to market. And that a lot of engineers, we've talked with a lot of manufacturers, and most of what the company that I run, most of what we do is working with manufacturers, and in talking with them, and I mean, 3D printing, okay, in Germany right now. They have a plane. It's at Boeing in Germany. It's sitting out there. They have a plane, complete plane that was 3D printed. And they're saying that within that time frame, we'll be flying on 3D planes. So, you know, if you ever watched, who's the comedian? The guy after Colbert, Corden, James Corden.
Oh,
And he goes in his car, and he's in the car. That is a 3D printed car. That car was printed off a 3D printer. And NASA right now, when they need a replacement part for the International Space Station, they 3D print it. I mean, it is incredible what we are going to be doing, how we're going to be living in just a short period of time. And it's coming. And so what we have to do is we have to understand what it is. There's a lot of positive. There's a lot of positive out there. But we also have to understand what it is and how it is that we can safeguard not only ourselves but our families as well.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be possible to just drop off the grid.
No, and that's the thing. That's the thing. So, like, there's a few different things I would suggest. And the first thing I would remove the source of wireless transmission when you're sleeping or when you don't need it. Cut it off. Turn your phone on airplane mode. Put it downstairs. There's these. It is making a difference, and it's very subtle. And so, like, these things that these suggestions I'm going to give you add up, and they make a difference. So that's the first thing, is avoid it if you can. And that means, if you're a family, even if you're a person, a woman or a male, both, because it goes for men and women, if you're trying to start a family, don't have your laptop on your lap. With Wi-Fi blasting, actually, because it actually will affect your children. Simple things is that if you and this is something I found out, if you increase the distance from your body by 1 foot, you reduce the impact on your body by 80%, and that's quite substantial. Okay, now we're not, it's not eliminating 100%, but that's something that we can do. Another thing, get wired as much as possible. I know people that were having serious problems with electromagnetic sensitivity, so they got wired again. They gave up their wireless mouse, they gave up their wireless keyboard, they gave up their wireless screen, and all of a sudden they started feeling better. And so there's a few different things that I would suggest. Also, it detoxes, all of these things, and I have a whole list. I'm not going to name them all right now. I have a whole list that I will send you. Again, if you just reach out and contact me on Facebook, or online. Yeah.
Now, I have a question, going back to what you said about crowd control.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that sounds, if you can control a crowd, can't you then also incite a crowd?
Well, there's a lot of military leaders across the world who have talked about using this technology. And there's some patents that are out there for using it in more obtrusive ways. But right now, there's no evidence saying that is the way that it is. But I was actually referring to crowd control. I was actually talking about it's a microwave radiation that just penetrates the outer layer of their clothing,
right,
and it just heats up and it gets them to move. Now, one of the things I want people to understand is that the reason why they say that as cell phone companies would say that there's no evidence is because they actually they will look at pulses of time that were practically unrealistic. 30 minutes here, an hour here, and oh look, this person was fine after 30 minutes, this person was fine after an hour. Not the 24/7 exposure that we have on a daily basis. So it's just something to keep in mind as we look to what's going to be happening. When you realize that everything in your house is wireless, when Alexa's sitting there talking to you, Alexa is listening to everything you say, to be able to respond. But the fact is that means that she's always pulsing, she's always transmitting, she's always on. Those things, if you can turn them off, you would actually reduce your risk. And that's really what we're talking about, reducing your exposure risk and improving your health long term. Yes?
So I'm going to be a homeowner myself shortly, and I was thinking about the whole farming aspect and let's do it real environmental, get solar panels. But and to that point, how can you get off of the wireless, but still maintain, and I think she mentioned still being, not dropping off.
Someone said something about the ground.
Oh,
Yes,
yes, that was
okay. Let me, I'm a scientist, and so I've always kind of looked at things from that perspective. And I used to hear about this thing called grounding that never made sense to me. And like these hippies that go out there and they put their feet on the ground and they're supposed to feel better and they're supposed to do that in the morning. Well, apparently there's some science behind that. There's actually some benefit behind that. And if you're in a rural area, that grounding is actually very beneficial to recharging your cellular mitochondria and recharging your energy source and dispersing some of that built up energy that you built from talking on your phone all day. So when you actually wake up in the morning, and I would recommend that from between hours of 6 a.m. to 12 noon, look at the sun, actually set your circadian rhythms into their natural routine, and do that with your bare feet on the ground. That would actually enhance and improve your energy functioning throughout the day. Now, make sure that you have ground underneath you and not a subway. Subways are actually would make it worse. And so there's certain, it's what depends when we're talking about the environment being local. So it's important to know where you are. And this is something I'll do assessments. When you reach out to me, I'll actually tell you what's working, what's not in terms of your health, your business, or your home.
And I think just to close up here, because we're being told as we were saying, as Jonathan said, take a look, do an assessment on yourself, do an assessment on your home. Take a look at what is it and how is it that I'm using things, and where is it, and what is it that I can do to help mitigate the risk. We're all living in this environment. We're going to. We can't get away from it anywhere on the planet, just about. But what we can do is what we can take advantage of. Let's do that. And it's like we were talking earlier. Okay, let's get involved. Let's get more aware of what it is and how it is those things are impacting our lives.
And to add to that, take care of yourself, because the technological advances will actually be able to extend your life, but not just extend your life. We want you to extend your usefulness. And so it's kind of interesting that in 2029, when they say that 99% of all things will be connected, at the same time, Google believes in 2029 that we will have solved the aging problem.
Yeah, and if you dispute that, okay, Jonathan and I are the same age, see? See what not taking care of yourself does?
Well, thank you guys for coming.